We're following developments on the escalating refugee crisis in Venezuela. The United Nations says more than 52,000 refugees have fled to Brazil since early last year, and Colombia's president believes more than 600,000 Venezuelans are now in his country. Venezuela's neighboring South American countries are struggling to keep up with the massive flow of these refugees, and the situation has sparked a new kind of backlash across the region. CBSN contributor Alex Kliment is here to walk us through the latest. He writes for Signal. That's a newsletter produced by GZERO Media. Good to see you.
Good to be back.
So this is such an incredibly important story that is not getting a lot of play, which is why I'm really glad that you're here to talk to us about it. Explain exactly what's going on here. South America has typically abided by an open borders policy. What has changed as these Venezuelans try to escape what is essentially a collapsing country?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, historically Latin American countries have had quite permissive immigration policies and quite generous social benefits policies for migrants. The scale of the Venezuelan crisis is causing countries to rethink that. Over the past year, inflation in Venezuela has reached 2,000%. On average, Venezuelans have lost 20 pounds in body weight. I mean, the humanitarian crisis there is just absolutely unimaginable. Not surprisingly, many Venezuelans are leaving. Close to 1 million have left the country over the past several years. The majority of them have gone to Colombia and Brazil, but they're going elsewhere in Latin America and the Caribbean as well. And it's forcing governments in the region to reassess those policies, right? The Brazilian government is now saying, you know, we need to declare a state of emergency in the border regions. A local governor in one of the border regions is suing the federal government, asking the federal government of Brazil to close the border. In Colombia, we've seen camps built along the border. The leading presidential candidate in the Colombian presidential race has said we need quotas. This is a wholesale rethinking of what historically has been a very permissive immigration policy in the region.
Why do you think that this story hasn't picked up any traction? I mean, I've expected that, having covered and been based in Africa for many years, that in Africa, both the horrific things that happen there and the wonderful, uplifting stories that are coming out of that continent don't get a lot of play in the United States. But South America has typically has had a much closer relationship with the United States. Do you think it's perhaps because there's been this incredible focus on what's happening in Washington?
It's a mystery. It's a mystery that a refugee crisis of this magnitude, which now rivals the Syrian refugee crisis in severity and in growth, it's a mystery why Americans are not paying more attention to this. As you say, Venezuela is quite close to the United States. It is actually a major oil exporter to the United States. The countries that neighbor Venezuela are close allies of the United States. So it is a mystery and, frankly, a shame that this story is not getting more coverage. But here we are talking about it.
So let's talk about the conditions that have led to this mass refugee crisis. A lot of Americans will say, well, you just pointed out that Venezuela is a major oil exporter to the United States and the rest of the world. They have these incredible natural resources. What's going on there that they're not able to feed their own people? So
two big things have happened in recent years. First is the collapse in oil prices. But second, and perhaps more importantly, is a collapse in oil production in Venezuela. Venezuela's oil production has collapsed by more than 1 million barrels a day since 2016, largely because of mismanagement of the state oil company, PDVSA. The government has put people who don't actually know how to run oil companies in charge of the company, political appointees, cronies, and they've made a mess of the thing. So it's really two things that are happening. One, low oil prices, lower oil production, and that's crimping the Venezuelans' ability to import the goods that they need because economic mismanagement has made it impossible for Venezuela to provide for its own needs. So it's really this triple vice, right? Venezuela is not producing, the hard currency isn't there, and the oil revenues are just collapsing.
And, you know, when you cite a statistic like that Venezuelans are losing a significant percentage of their body weight because they can't afford to eat because food prices are out of control. I mean, how does something like this get fixed?
Well, one solution,
economically.
Yeah, well, one solution to the immediate humanitarian crisis is international aid. The government, President Maduro, has actually rejected humanitarian aid. Well, because he sees any aid in which the U.S. is involved as the leading edge of an imperialist plot to overthrow the government in Venezuela. So there's a political resistance to accepting, at least in part, some of the humanitarian aid that might help alleviate this crisis. The Europeans are working to do some things, but it's not happening fast enough.
It's just I want to keep talking about this, not just today, but in the days and weeks ahead, Alex. I hope you'll come back and talk to us about it. But let's talk some hard numbers. One of the figures you highlight is the UN's appeal to help Venezuela. It probably does not include the United States for the reasons you cite, but how is that going?
Well, so the UN High Commission on Refugees has put a number of $46 million in aid that's needed to help.
That's not a lot.
It's not a lot of money.
That's not a lot of money.
Well, it's not a lot of money, and also not a lot of it has come in. I mean, the hard number that you refer to is 6, because only 6% of that $46 million has actually materialized since they made this call. So the money's not there.
What are the Venezuelan people, last question, I know we got to go, what are the Venezuelan people looking to do when it comes to political leadership there with President Maduro? Well,
so there's an election coming up later this month, which has been roundly regarded as illegitimate. Already, the government has stacked the deck in its favor. The opposition has chosen to boycott the election rather than participate. Sadly, I think the situation is going to get worse after the elections insofar as international sanctions on Venezuela in response to those elections, which will be viewed as fraudulent and non-competitive. The sanctions are going to increase, right? And as we've seen in the past, sanctions tend to hurt people more than they hurt politicians. So the situation can go on for quite a while longer.
It's a disaster of epic proportions. I'm glad you're here to talk about it. We'll continue to discuss it here at CBSN. Alex Kliment, thank you very much as always.
Thanks, Vlad.
And you can check out all these stories and more by subscribing to the Signal newsletter. Sign up for it at GZEROmedia.com.